Hi, welcome to the Car Chat podcast. I'm Sam Moores, and on the podcast this week we have Jens Sverdrup of Zenvo Automotive, giving us a little bit of an insight into their next car, which is pretty crazy. The first 5 minutes of the podcast or something like that, the audio probably sounds a little bit weird. We had a car running in the background on the other side of a wall, but I think we managed to clip it reasonably well, but the audio does get better. Anyway, enjoy. I'm sitting down with a friend of mine, Jens Sverdrup. Hello.
Hello.
Last time we spoke, you were at a different company, a while ago now.
Yeah.
But
2 years ago.
Yeah,
almost.
2 years ago.
During lockdown, I remember.
And now you are. What's your position?
So I'm a chairman and CCO of Zenvo Automotive now.
And I think I last saw you was at Goodwood. Probably.
Yeah, this couple of months ago. Yeah.
I had a little sneak preview of a new car.
Yeah.
So talk to me about it.
Well, what do you think?
Okay, so
I want your impressions before I give you mine.
Yeah.
What's your impression of it?
My opinion of Zenvo has changed quite a lot over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It went from a company I didn't really know much about, I never saw the cars apart from Goodwood, and then it would be like the new Zenvo whatever driving up the hill, and I didn't know anything about it.
Same
really.
for me, actually. Very similar. Had ever there, but I didn't know quite what it was and why it was.
Yeah,
I didn't know what
exactly.
the cars did. Is it a numbers car? Is it this? Is it that? And then, as I got to know things and I got the first test drive, all of a sudden I go, wait, this is good.
Yeah.
This is clearly a driver's car. It's so that's that was my big surprise, and then I started noticing the build quality and these things, which I know you've.
When I did so my first sort of real deep understanding, besides begin, when I did a podcast with Trolls. We do hours about engineering and design and all that sort of stuff. And
fly by quickly with him if he goes into engineering. Yeah.
And that straight away was, I came out of that thinking, oh, hang on a minute, this is significantly more serious than I thought it was. I didn't realize the levels that the company go to develop their own stuff and all of the bits and pieces. And then, I don't know how long ago it was now, a year ago maybe, I drove the blue TSRS.
Yeah.
And that car has still developed quite a bit since I drove it to now.
Actually, based on your feedback.
Okay.
With the gear, well, we had a few journalists, yourself included, that we respect the opinion of and go, okay, we've had two guys now saying we think the gearbox is too slow, between first and reverse, so let's just fix it, because without this feedback, we don't know, you can't see the forest for all the trees.
Exactly. Yeah, and when I drove that car, I was really surprised at how solid it felt. When you look around the cars, the build quality in the car. But
I think it's, definitely top 3 in the world, for sure. There's very few that can match, that carbon work, and I've seen it all.
It's sick.
Yeah, it's really good.
And then to drive, it was just awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah.
We had the gearbox thing was kind of annoying. Basically, at low speed, if you wanted to go from first to reverse, it took a little bit of time and it was work. But I went in one of the cars, the same car day before, and it's just it just works now.
Yeah, it's just software, and a synchro ring basically. But it's but that's what it was based on. Actually, after your feedback, and it's like, okay, it was such an easy fix.
Yeah.
It took us 2 weeks to do the change and do some testing and get the new software in, and that was it.
Yeah. And then since then, obviously, Tim, Shmi, friend of mine, he purchased one.
Yeah.
It was a big move for him, and it's very cool for you guys, I think.
Fantastic for us to. Honestly, nothing is more credible than you do journalist reviews, and, but usually it's like you lend out the car for a day and then you get some criticism afterwards.
Yeah.
But here's a guy who's sort of been around the company. He's liked the car for a long time, and ends up putting down his. He's worked hard. He's worked hard for that. I mean, how credible is that?
Yeah.
One of, if probably the world's biggest YouTube car
Yeah.
influencer putting down his hard-earned money on a car, that's a good review.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So,
Then, and his car was at Goodwood, and then so I had a little preview of, and we're sitting in a room now, and we've got this other thing up on the display of what's coming in the future, and
the good thing this podcast is
it's audio.
it's audio.
I can take a picture on my phone, and
Otherwise we'd be in trouble.
but basically, I can do a little description of what is sort of like.
Yeah, so you can do. Yeah, exactly. It's like old school,
describe.
like pre-TV sports commentary.
So take what you know about what Zenvo looks like now, keep some styling sort of language, but take it into the, like, I don't know, 20 years ahead, similar sort of design, sorts of stuff you might have seen on things like Valkyrie and things like that, really heavily sculpted body. But so the car comes in two styles, is that right?
Yeah, so it's funny you say, so we've had so many guys early on, because this is a 3-year development already now, so we've had the customers coming in and see, and then quite a few have said, well, you're not skipping one generation of cars here. You're sort of 2 or 3 generations newer, but you can still see there's family resemblance. But it's definitely
this looks like some sort of spacecraft
modern thing.
The old.
And I have to say, well, it's more Danish. You know, that was, I think, okay. So the brief was like, okay, we're about driving, as you know. So it's so that was up there. Smile per mile is sort of on top of the list.
Yeah,
you know,
nice. Yeah,
insane build quality. Because I personally, well, I don't know. I love the boutique stuff, and I look at the building hypercars. It's just as much an art form as anything else. So it has to be as beautiful as a Patek Philippe watch inside, and you know, like that sort of stuff really matters to me. And thank God for a few customers too. Otherwise, we would just buy cars from the big brands, I think. You know, so we can offer something just way beyond in terms of attention to detail and just artistry, which you know, I just love. There's a new technology coming out, new methods with doing carbon. You know, we can, you know, we quickly call a customer and say, hey, you know, we'd love to try this thing. You know, and we can do it, and that's the beauty of small manufacturers. You know, we can actually do these things, and I think it's sort of becoming more and more polarized, where the big brands, you know, they're doing
especially
a couple of colors, and then we have
prices as well.
Yeah. So it's sort of it's along each other in a way. And I guess, well, you know, why we were doing 2 cars, and I think we don't want to compromise. So it very quickly we started developing this car, and I know you wanted to do certain things. You know, it's still a hypercar, so even though we're not chasing numbers, we're chasing smile per mile. But of course, it's a hypercar. It has hypercar performance. So I think we just decided, okay, let's sit down. Let's if we do our very best at everything, that means, you know, we'll do the best design, we'll do, you know, the best aerodynamics, you know, the best drivetrain, you know, where do we land, basically?
Yeah.
You know, and whilst never compromising on the smile per mile factor, which means, you know, depends on what you want on the car. So we've sort of gone down the route of doing a Hyper GT and the more track biased, you know, higher downforce car. Which has been a lot of, it's very hard to make a high downforce car really beautiful.
Yeah, because it's got to have lots of flicks and wings.
Yeah. I think I'll switch to it. I wish you could see it, but but I think we've achieved it. You know, but of course, some people want, you know, higher top speed. Some people want to use the car for different uses, like road trips. You know, like things like luggage matters. And some people want both, which be very cynical. It was also like when we sat down and did it, it's like, wait a minute, we can actually get, probably the cars are so different, sharing the same platform and drivetrain, but they're so different in character and the way they look that we'll probably end up with guys or girls, so far only guys, buying one of each, which has happened.
Has it?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Not that we don't want more customers, but it is great to have, if you do 100 cars, it would be great to have 50 customers. Everyone have one of each.
That's a lot less phone calls.
Yeah, exactly. It's efficiency. They like Scandinavian efficiency, and
a lot of modern crazy stuff has no luggage space at all.
Yeah, no.
Are you going to have luggage space?
Yeah. So I mean, I think I don't want to. Hope no one takes it the wrong way, but we're big fans of the Valkyrie.
Yeah.
But we're not big fans of compromises. Yeah. So I think Christian, our head of design, me, Trolls, we were all like, oh, the Valkyrie is seriously cool. But then we started to look into it and say, okay, how do you get into the car? How this, so user friendliness. And I think that's where...
Yeah. As a road car.
And also we're Scandinavians. We do practical stuff. Yeah. We're pragmatic. We have shit weather, to be very frank. So for us to be in the mud and step into a car seat, that's not cool. So ergonomics is a big thing. Yeah. So again, had we gone full on with performance only, we probably would have compromised, the ease of use, basically. So we're making a car that's in both versions easy to get in and out of, where you won't look awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I appreciate, I'm 50 myself, and for me, some of these cars, if you drive them for a week, getting in and out several times a day, it can be painful, and you look silly.
You do, and it's like I'm quite good at like getting myself in and out of stuff, but when you get in something that's got a super wide sill and your feet are up in front of your face and like all that sort of stuff, as a road car, I personally have never really. We were just talking about if someone gave you like $1 billion, what would you buy? And I said I wouldn't go out and buy 100 cars because like I don't want that hassle.
Oh, do you have to hire 20 people to look after them?
So and buy more space and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But for me, cars have to have a purpose and something I'm going to use them for.
Yeah.
And getting a really raw, like the idea of having a race car on the road, other than just as a one-off experience to drive it for 20 minutes, that sounds horrific to me. Like I don't want something that's impossible to get into. A road car for me, you've got to get into and then be happy doing a road trip.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to get some luggage in it. So you don't have to have a support car and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then enjoy it on the road.
This is super important. Let's face it, even though we do a track bias car, like how often do you take, a $2 to $5 million hypercar on track? Even the track only ones, you maybe like 3 times a year, 4 times a year. Like most people have a GT3 RS to do that sort of stuff.
Or a race car.
Or a radical or a race car, because you might as well. So it's more of having the experience a few times a year in good company together with, hopefully other Zenvo owners or other hypercar owners, but in that company because, stone chips, this, that, it just becomes very expensive.
Especially when you've got these cars that are they're like jewelry.
Yeah.
And then you put it in the gravel and
it's not nice, So we realized that even a track biased performance car will spend most of its time on the road.
Yeah.
So we're doing road cars. We're not the race car manufacturer. We don't want the compromises. So even though it has racy features, we're still doing stuff like active engine mounts. It's not hard mounted because you
not race jointed all that sort of stuff.
We want a nice sound. We don't want things to sound agricultural, basically. We want the hairs to stand up on your arms for all the right reasons.
Okay, so speaking of hair standing up, what's the powertrain?
So we're developing, we're pretty far down the line of developing our own V12, basically. And we have, there's a 6-liter V12, very special engine. It starts from day one as a road car engine, as opposed to probably some of the others like the Mercedes and Aston, which sort of is a race engine trying to
make
fit
it
into,
work.
So and the reason we're doing that is, of course, because A, we can, B, we're going down full worldwide homologation. including America. So there's just no way of making it financially viable to take, like an extreme race engine and trying to, shoehorn it into this regulation.
As we've seen with Valkyrie and AMG1, that is quite challenging.
Super challenging, yeah.
To make it pass all the emissions tests and whatever, and just run.
Yeah. So we're doing. So we're trying to be very smart, I guess, pragmatic Scandinavian thinking. We're thinking very modular, even about our new platforms.
Yeah.
We're sort of investing a lot of money in this new car and future cars, basically. And we're doing the same with the powertrains. We know our V12 will be okay until 2035. Okay. It's a hybrid, twin turbo hybrid V12, basically. So we know we can pass, what's coming next in emissions. Yeah. But at the same time, we're sort of spreading our development cost, and we're also doing a V6 and a V8 based on the same block. So it's a modular system, which enables us to, for example, sell the V6 to some boutique manufacturers, for example. We can't do big volumes. It's but it sort of softens the blow of the investment, because for us it really needs to work well into the future. And even things like as I said, our monocoque is fully modular, basically. So it can transform into several other types of cars. So if we want to do like a junior hypercar in the future with a V8, that could be done with relative ease, like a less extreme version. But this is most definitely a halo car, and it's
and you're not going to do the thing that we've seen from some manufacturers, where you release the halo car and then like 8 months later you release one that looks exactly the same but half the price.
No.
And all the customers go, what?
No, I mean, we can't afford that. So we can't afford to lose customers. So, and we're on a good trajectory now. Sort of, I think it's safe to say we're sort of right on the nudge of like a major breakthrough for the brand. Where we've taken of this new car, we've taken quite a few orders. Quite a few pretty well-known collectors have actually put their money down towards one. So we say, okay, this is going to be our breakthrough. And also the TSR series cars is now selling more than ever, even though because people realize this is going places.
I can also see how that works quite nicely. And you've got this new car that is crazy and it looks super cool. And if someone starts buying into the brand, they're like, oh then I can see why they might go, okay, this car, I'm not going to have it for a year, 2 years, or whatever it's going to be in terms of deliveries. But actually, I could buy a TSRS right now.
Yeah.
And then I'm in the brand, I've got something involved.
Yeah. And I think, so what's also happening is, so when you buy a hypercar, you want also to buy into the family, into the community. So more attracts more. Yeah. So all of a sudden now there's quite a few guys, getting the car. We're looking into doing like customer events and things like that, where we'll be 10, 15 cars out on the road, which for us is the first time. Yeah. So then you're sort of entering that, and I think that's been missing because we haven't had enough cars out there. Yeah. They've been spread all over the world. There's one here, one there. So there's never been that sort of community, but now we're getting there. So even at next year's Goodwood, we'll probably be 10, 11, 12 owners going on a rally, hopefully. It's something I'm trying to organize. So that's another, that attracts, because why do you buy cars like this? Well, it's not a solution for anything, so you just want to enjoy them, and you don't want to be the only one, who has to say, why do you have this car? So you want to be, a part of sort of a community, family, and sort of share your experience with others. Because if it's only for you, then it doesn't have the same value.
And you see that a lot, specifically this week. Car Week, we've seen it with the Koenigseggs. They're all driving around together.
F50s, I've seen several. It's like a club,
Paganis, whatever. There's 10 of them on their tour.
No, it's because you share a passion. This is a tribe. Sort of. So that's something that's now happening, for us. Where And I think, quite frankly, I mean, we're not making cars as investment objects, and I don't think there's any guarantees thing. But I think one of the reasons why maybe people have held off is like, okay, I really love the car, you know, I want it, you know, like, will you be around next year?
It's valid.
Yeah.
It's really valid point.
You know, what happens to me if the company goes bankrupt?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and now I think we can say, okay, Zenvo was founded in 2007. Clearly, we're not going anywhere now. You know,
especially with all the stuff going on now.
You have all this stuff happening. I think you can appreciate over the last 12 months, you know, like there's a buzz going on. You know, there's more and more customers are buying the cars, and that sort of builds trust basically in us. And so I think there's no longer any fear that will be gone next year, you know. And I went through this with, you know, even with Koenigsegg when I was there, it was like, okay, you know, like, but, you know, are you here to stay? Yeah. And of course now that's no question, you know, but at some stage it started to sort of, the scale started to tip over because everyone just realized, okay, if they've managed, you know, 2 financial crises and this and that, clearly, you know, they're still around. Clearly, they're not just going to throw in the, you know, the towel now. So I think we've crossed the line there. You know, being an established company, we've learned how to build cars, and I think quite a few customers probably, well, I know they do, probably think, well, they don't like to lose money. Although we don't give any guarantees, obviously, but I think as the brand is growing, I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to understand that probably the values will also grow, which honestly shouldn't be the reason you buy any car, I don't think. You should buy
it's a dangerous game, I think.
Yeah, you should buy it because you want it, but it's also nice as a manufacturer, you know, I mean, I would be very happy if someone can actually drive around in a car and not lose money. I mean, what a gift. What a gift to give a customer who trusts you. You know, that we're doing so much right in our marketing and our cars are so good, that people want them and they have a positive, you know, value, you know, prospect. That's great. Although,
I mean, nothing makes a repeat customer like selling your original car, getting either your money back or more. And then you're like, of course I'll buy another one.
Of course it's great,
you know,
because it's, it doesn't, well, then again, the world has been strange for about 10 years and who knows, you know, like, But I think these cars are so rare, it's so limited in numbers, so you do the math, you know, like with the TSR, you know, series, it's going to be so few cars, we can't even build, you know, it takes so long time to build them that doesn't matter if we had 50 orders, you know, it would, you know, we still wouldn't be able to build more than 5 in a year. It's just too time consuming.
How many are there? How many TSRSs are there?
Of
that series?
Oh, TS, you could say. So we're now building chassis number 15.
Okay.
So this includes everything. Yeah. So with prototypes and everything. So and I have to say, well, during this week, so far we've taken 3 deposits on TS series just here this week. And money cleared, everything. So there's cars coming to America, for example. So how many will there be in total? Well, we're doing 10 TSR series cars. Yeah. So they, you know, they're all sort of spoken for. So it's not a lot, you know. And then within those, there's like 3 TSR GT. You know, and then there's 7 TSRS. So you're talking very, very limited numbers. And the last of its breed, sort of, you know, because our next car is going to be a hybrid. This is sort of the last sort of old school, loud, you know, fire spitting, you know, and I think that's...
Lots of fire.
And I think, in a way, the fear of electric cars have sort of also brought more customers into our camp.
Well, when you look at the cars that came out, whatever it was, 8 years ago now, like P1, LaFerrari and stuff like that. Now, all their hybrid systems, I think a lot of customers would be very happy if you could remove the hybrid on your LaFerrari.
You know, even my boss at the time, I won't mention the name, you know, we were walking around at the Geneva show and we go, thank God this is our breakthrough, because finally the big boys are here. So, you know, it went from being a boutique thing to becoming an industry. But I remember walking around, we were sort of cracking jokes a little bit, like, yeah, the hybrid stuff. Like, I wonder when the first aftermarket guys are going to offer like a dehybridization.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you look at.
I think what seems to happen. I know someone who's been developing better systems for the P1. I think it's like an upgrade.
I would assume there will be aftermarket solutions for like better batteries for sure. Yes, I think there's nothing wrong with the systems themselves really. It's just complex batteries that are way too heavy and
because I know with P1 originally, and I feel like this may have changed. It wasn't just you had to leave it on a trickle charger. It was you had to run the car every X amount of days.
Yeah, could be, yeah.
Or the hybrid system and the battery died.
Yeah.
Like was dead.
Yeah, that's improved a lot now with of course you have software that's sort of taking care of your batteries and everything. So it's moved on a lot, and of course I can't say too much, but we're working on some really cool battery technology for our cars, where of course they're going to be very lightweight, which this stuff wouldn't have been remotely possible. It isn't even possible today for mass production. But by the time we launch the cars, we'll be able to produce, our 15 packs a year. So it's moved on a lot, but it's the biggest, contributing factor to the weight of even the new cars. That is the battery packs. So I'm sure there will be a big aftermarket
makes sense
for those things in the
all
future.
Those things, yeah. It's always going to be a solution.
It must be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when are we going to? I say, obviously I'm looking at what it's going to be like, but when are we going to see some sort of car in public?
Yeah. So we're like, we're already sweating to finish them for next year's Pebble Beach, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that is the plan.
Sometime around then.
To basically unveil them and launch them at next year's Pebble Beach. I don't think we'll bother the world with boring teaser pictures with with silk drapes and stuff. Yeah. We'll just save it. We're on a pretty good trajectory to be at least half sold out by the time we launch, which for us is game changing. So to have half of the order stock spoken for at launch, then we can just focus on actually delivering on time. So instead of selling. So that is, we had ambitions of actually launching them at Goodwood next year. I would very much like to, but I don't think it's possible. Okay, we're already and of course, but there will be prototypes around that time. We're pretty far down development of this. So this has been going on for 3 years already.
Yeah, because I remember when the podcast with Trolls, he was talking about the gearbox, I think.
The gearbox is ready for production. Yeah. So for example, so we have developed our own gearbox with a hybrid, with a motor included in it. It's a really cool solution. Where we're also using electric, so we can run straight cut or gears and use the electric motor for filling in between. So you can have a full race gearbox, or you can have not fully a twin clutch feeling gearbox, which I also don't think our customers want. Yeah. But you can have a very smooth and fast gear change. And we use the electric motors for reverse. So it's an 8-speed forwards, electric reverse. We use the electric motor for traction, basically traction control and things like that, which is a very, very good way of controlling the wheels on especially low speed. So it's a very clever solution, very compact. So that's been out testing in test mules for a while. The engine is, I would say, 30-40% developed at the stage where we will have like actual engines towards the end of the year. We've gone through a full year of aero work on this car already. So this is more or less, the final design. There will be stuff like mirrors, which you see there, which is optional, but more or less this is 99% what it will look like.
The one we're looking at has camera mirrors.
Yeah, which is an option actually. Yeah. In North America, you can't have it. We're not so happy with the way they look. Yeah. But they work. But we've also had a lot of feedback from customers who just doesn't want it. They want, normal mirrors.
I've not driven many cars that have camera mirrors, but the ones I have, I didn't like it.
No, most people say that.
It does my head in.
I hate screens, so yeah, and we all do. So I don't think they belong in a hypercar.
Yeah, and I think it's that thing of when you look at a mirror, I think most people, without even thinking about it, they move their head slightly to one side and slightly to the other side, and you get this you immediately then get a 3D perspective of what's in the mirror. Yeah. Whereas with the camera, you just have an image. Yeah. And you can't necessarily place distance and stuff.
No, yeah. It's great for blind spot detection, of course. But
as a rear camera, that is amazing. Yeah. Especially in something that's hardcore where you basically can't see out the back anyway.
Yeah, you can't on this one. But anyway, it's an option. But I think people will be happy to hear. So our interior is not done yet. I would say we're like 40-50% down the line there too, but we're going with analog instruments. We're going with beautiful buttons that feel good. Okay. So anything that has to do with driving, there will be a button for you that will have a nice tactile feel. Because I don't know if you've driven some, especially like sports cars, and you're trying to fiddle with a menu, but it is like
it's awful.
Yeah,
it's really bad.
I hate it. I think, and the screens are cheap. I mean, we all have iPhones, and I mean, they're not expensive. I think they date horribly. There's going to be something way nicer coming out in 5 years. But we're still wearing mechanical watches, so that's something we decided early on. This is a driver's car. It's about your senses, so we don't want. Well, if we can hide, obviously we need sat-nav and these things, we're developing it, but we definitely want to hide it.
Do you think you'll do a similar sort of setup that you've got in TSRS, where either you can run it through your phone or an iPad or something?
We're doing, probably not that simple. We're doing our own infotainment system, basically, but we'll have, but for sure Apple CarPlay and these things, yes. And preferably something you can hide.
Yeah, okay.
Which
I think is super important.
Yeah, where you only see beautifully crafted switches and a rev counter that's mechanical, and it's just
when the new Bentley Continental came out and it had that revolving display. Yeah, it's the first time in like any modern car you're able to just turn the screens off. Yeah, not that you ever do it when you're driving, but when it's parked or whatever. Yeah, and you just have dials and stuff. And like, in 50 years' time, this will still look. Great.
Yeah, it won't look like you've seen a PC from 1980s. It doesn't big. It looks very dated. So I mean, mechanical stuff is timeless. We're in the game of doing some sort of art here, so I don't think screens belong in there for us. Not for us, and I think also. You're also seeing this divide now with the electric hypercars coming. They're very screen heavy and very tech heavy, and that's sort of, that's their thing. Yeah. We're going down the more artistic route, and we want good physical interfaces, basically. Yeah. So especially anything that has to do with actually driving. Yeah. That just needs to be on the button, like with presets, and even motorcycles these days, you have to, flick. Yeah, you have to flick into menus, and so it's. I'm a big Ducati fan, as you know, but still, you sort of have to.
Which when you're driving along, and we're told we're not allowed to use our phones. Yeah. And then you're like, but you're allowed to use the car infotainment. Like, I can't remember. I was driving something recently. Oh yeah, it was like a new MX-5. Yeah. And that has a touch display. that disables the touch display as soon as you start moving.
Yeah.
Which for me, I was using CarPlay.
Yeah.
Is like really stupid. So you have a rotary dial.
Even worse.
And like trying to use a rotary dial whilst looking at a display is so much harder than just going, I need that, and then pressing it.
Yeah.
And then looking back at the road.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so that's So this is I'll call it a driving instrument.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Super cool.
We need obviously all the stuff that you need in a modern car, but we can make sure it's all beautiful and whatever we don't want to show, we can hide away, and you don't drive with the sat nav on all the time. So why should the screen be there? So on the seats, I guess I can shed some more light. So basically, our monocoque has integrated seats in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So so it's like the LaFerrari, and So of course, being Danish, we have a very rich design heritage. So there's a lot of effort going into making the
pedals moving. Pedals moving?
Yes, pedals and steering.
That I didn't really think about that too much until it might have been actually talking to you guys about it. But when you move your seat forward, so much more than just your seating position and like how close you are to the steering wheel changes.
Yeah.
It's like, can you see all the dials?
Yeah.
Can you see the mirrors?
Yeah.
Can you see it correctly out of all of the windows?
Yeah.
If you move forward or back, all of that stuff changes.
Yeah. I've had issues with some cars with glare, from the dashboard. All of a sudden you move further. Oh God, now I see this reflection, in the window. And it's I want to move back again.
You want your seating position and driving position to be optimized for your body and the drive, but you don't want it to affect the other stuff that's going on in the car.
I think it also ties in our, we're Scandinavian, less is more.
Yeah.
So that's also the way, you can't, we're thinking about the design here where we only have body panels where they're needed, where we can get away with, so you see the monocoque, is part of the car's design.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the car, and we've got the sort of track version up on the screen, there's parts of it where the door that's carbon, and then that flows through, and that is the monocoque. Yeah,
you see also the subframes, which are beautiful, because we can make beautiful carbon. So all this is, so we're not covering over anything. And of course, exposed suspension parts. So we're using a lot of negative space. And I think one thing...
Because I don't think I've seen that sort of situation where you're literally looking at the underside of the car, but it's the exterior of the car, and obviously it looks great.
Yeah. I guess the Valkyrie and the Lotus have sort of, and the Ford GT has some sort of negative space use.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of that.
We've taken it to the extreme where most cars have aero going over the car.
Yeah.
We send it through the car.
Yeah, there's a lot going through. Yeah. A lot of these sort of tunnels that go.
So it's a pretty radical looking thing. But I'm super happy with the way it looks.
It does look cool. And for the people listening, I think if you look at the current cars and then we're saying, yes, this looks like it's 20, 30 years ahead.
Well,
and if you compare it to, I'd say if I compare it to the other manufacturers in this sort of space, high-end hypercar space, this absolutely sits alongside, there's no question, all of the others, or depending on the styling and what you like, above. It is really cool looking.
I think so. And how when you see a new car, like most people, if you read the internet comments, reminds me of this, reminds me of this. So we haven't had a single comment yet.
No, it doesn't.
We've shown the car to over 200 people, and we were so worried about, I wonder if they will compare it to a McLaren or this or that. And we've even had some people from McLaren sitting there, and we were just waiting. Like, do you think it? Like, no, it's its own thing.
It is.
And that's hard to achieve. You can have your own thing, but it might be ugly. But I think...
because we've had some cars launched this week. One from McLaren, that I would say looks like it's got a lot of elements from another manufacturer.
Yeah.
And I think, ultimately, whether that's planned or not, when you're pursuing certain aero and performance stuff, sometimes you come to a similar solution. But
that's the problem with aero. If you look at the aero like Tour de France, they all look the same because they have the same regulation. They run it through the same software.
Yeah.
They pretty much look the same. If you look at music, it's sort of all the same chords and everything. So there's a limit to how inventive you can be, but we've sort of shaken things up a bit and sort of, okay, right, what can we do? Okay, we need better cooling. We want less weight. Do we have to send the air over the car, or can we, take it, and inspired by also Danish furniture a lot, where they use, negative space as part of the design. I think
I love that.
It's safe to say that we are inspired by cars like the BAC Mono. Came out in 2011. Still looks so beautiful, I think. It's just a great design, and and other cars like that. There's some beautiful motorcycles, like Ducati, Panigales. It's basically there's only fairing where it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's sort of just so that it's the same sort of thinking. We can make beautiful parts, like suspension components. Everything we make is a jewel. So we always thought, both Christian and me, because I came from the Singer project, which I love. It's a fantastic car. But I always felt we had this beautiful engineering. We put a body over it.
Yeah, you couldn't see it.
No, and I was like, hey, ooh. So anyway, I came in too late in that project, so I wasn't allowed to interfere with the design. But I was like, could we make some openings here and there so you can actually appreciate it?
I think, that one. If you ever if anyone listening manages to come across as a Singer, go and have a look at the engine bay. If you can see
gorgeous.
It, and you just go, whoa, what is going on? This is so different.
Yeah, I remember asking, can we not have a window, please?
Yeah.
So of course, I think that puts a lot of pressure on stuff you normally hide, because it's cheaper just to put a panel over it. But of course, we've perfected, the car building art. I think we're at this stage now where we can show off everything we do. It looks good. Whether it's aluminium or carbon or whatever, we're able to make it look good. We don't need to cover it up. We can make it as part of the car's design, basically, and that's definitely something that's unique with this. It's taken it, to another level, basically.
With the TSR S I drove, it had a power mode that was basically it will give you as much power as it can put down on the road.
Yeah.
Do you think, will there be a similar sort of thing in this?
Yeah. I mean, we're obviously doing an all new software pack and engine control and everything. But and of course,
I thought that was that was a really neat solution.
And it starts in that mode, and it is. I mean, that's what we drive with all the time too, because you can put it in full power mode. I mean, if you look at the total system output of this car, and I'm afraid of telling you this because it's not a numbers car, and we haven't chased performance number or horsepower numbers, but we've just sort of thrown everything we have at it to make it as good and drivable as possible.
Very high revving, turbo, hybrid, V12.
Yeah, but we are at 1800 horsepower on the top sort of power outputs. Of course, you need pretty clever, torque vectoring algorithms and this and that to be able to make that enjoyable. So that's why I've almost been contemplating to not reveal our numbers, because they are really...
Yeah, they're large.
Our acceleration numbers is high, our downforce numbers is high, because I'm so afraid of being put into that headline. And you know how car magazines, if you say you have a car that does 600 kilometers an hour, you'll get a headline. I don't want to be... That's not our customers. They actually don't care. They see the numbers and they go, definitely competes with, the fastest electric cars and all that stuff, but that's not the point. The point is it will have
driving experience.
It has a beautiful V12 and very agile and lightweight. It's half the weight of an electric car. So, of course that translates to, it's a lot easier to make a good driver's car when you're under 1,500 kilos, you know. So,
yeah, I imagine it's going to be quite
the
something.
the light is sort of the track version. I guess we can shed some light on it. It's 1,250 kilos for a fully homologated car, so it's light. The Hyper Grand Tourer, we're really working hard to get it down to 1,450. It's got bigger battery packs, but yeah, we might end up at closer to 1,500, but it's still light. Yeah. Or
that power,
or 1,800 horsepower and a very agile car. So, and I guess the footprint of the car is actually more or less the same length as this car, but it's got a shorter wheelbase, and it's 4 inches lower, so it's definitely
in the pictures and stuff, it looks like it's going to,
and it's more
super wide,
cab
low,
forward.
like,
So which you can see where so you don't have the long bonnet basically. So
and really like direct. Like that sort of setup, you're really driving it. You're not like like a 812 or something. Front's off doing something down the other end of the road.
No. And of course, I think also interior space at this stage is pretty much on par with what we have today, which you're totally fine being 6'4". Yeah. You know, not with a helmet, but you and me, I'm 6'1". Yeah. Anyone who's 6'2" should be completely fine, you know, using a helmet. So it's very user friendly because the whole smile per mile factor also goes into being user friendly. Because if it's only smile per mile for 2 minutes while you floor it, then you know it should also be fun to drive. As a challenge, it should be fun to drive in 50 mile an hour up a mountain road. Like a really fast car that is fun to drive slowly. It's not easy.
That's really hard.
Yeah. So
and things like the gearbox. I know when dual clutch gearbox first started coming out, and PDK, which is an amazing gearbox, but definitely it removes some fun for sure.
Some of the emotion,
it becomes like a tool for driving really fast. Yeah. So almost like, and around town and whatever, it's great. But like at 50 miles an hour, like the dog box in that car,
it's fun, yeah.
The TSRS is like properly fun.
Yeah, it makes it fun, yeah.
And it's a huge part. It's a huge part of the driving experience.
Yeah. So our Tim, our common friend, that's something when he saw the car. He said, "Please don't make it too slick." Yeah. You know, that was one of his comments. Like, I love the car. Please don't make it too slick. Because the reason I bought the TSRS was because. I don't know, you remember when the Aventador came out, everyone, oh, horrible gearbox, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, oh, we missed that gearbox. Because...
Not around town.
No, but you know, you've sort of gone the other way, because everyone, for a while, Porsche had their PDK, the 458, had, you know, it was all going that way. I even thought like, okay, we're going to have seamless gearboxes, and that's the future. And now I think... I guess also there's a counter movement with the electric hypercars. Like, oh, we actually miss this.
That's just
sort of
one gear.
Yeah, exactly. So you sort of we're going for refinement.
That's the key.
But also involvement, you know, and you need to feel something, because that's the only purpose of these cars, is to feel something. Yeah, we're not offering a solution for world peace or anything. We're offering, you know, like a few moments of happiness, basically, you know, and that's it, you know. So you need to feel.
You need to feel something.
Yeah, you need your hairs to stand up, and for me, that's always been like, when you drive a car, it's like I never care about the numbers, or I never care about what the magazine says. I go jump on it. Like, it's something happening, you know, with the hairs on my arm, you know, that's good enough for me. You know, so that's why I've driven, you know, Lotuses and flawed cars, like, because it's flawed, but the steering, you know, how good is that? It's like, okay, I'll forgive it all the rest of the stuff, because this makes my smile come up, and, you know, so that's, of course, that's the product, you know, that's what we're selling here, like,
it's very cool.
Moments of happiness.
Very cool. I think that's probably a good time to wrap it up. And that was my experience of driving and this is going to be a whole another level, but the TSRS, I got out of it, and I think I called Tim and was like, this is a lot better than I thought it was. Like, this is a properly fun car at like 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And something I said, and I don't know whether you guys will take that link or not, but my sort of thought was it feels to drive like a GT3 RS, but like ramped up by like 300%.
Yeah.
Handles amazingly, driving experience really good, but then has all of this like crazy gearbox and the engine and the power and all of that stuff.
And it's easy to drive, isn't it?
And really easy, easy to drive.
Yeah, that was my first reaction when I went over to the factory, and I go, "Oh, I could actually drive this down to Monaco."
Yeah.
You know, it's not too noisy. It feels, and then when you start, I've been having it on the track a few times. It's like, actually, it's very well balanced. I don't feel intimidated.
No, it's not scary at all.
I think it looks a bit intimidating.
Does.
Yeah, it has presence. When you come up to it, you go, oh yeah, this is going to be a handful. Yeah, you think it's going to be a handful, but it's this, it's got this beautiful power delivery, which is very linear. There's no, violent turbo that kicks in or anything. So it is actually a very exploitable performance on it, and you can really flick it around in the canyons up here. It's a big car, as you know, but you can
drive it.
Yeah, you can push it. So.
Cool. Well, thanks very much.
Saying that, I'll probably go.
Go for another drive.
I've just sold the drive to myself.
Guys, I need to do a little bit more testing, a little more development.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for
coming
on the podcast.
Thank you for coming. And,